during the time of colonization, the Dutch Empire had the Dutch Indies, which is all modern-day Indonesia, mostly. And I want to say something about that. When that happened, they kickstarted a economic upturn, and led to a mania, a specific mania, which was about tulips. People started selling tulips for about, like, the price of a ship and stuff like that. But the thing is, that wasn't a government-made thing. That was the thing that was in people's psychology. The economy was gradually growing, which is often one of the things that people in communist ideas say is a reason why communism works better, is because it's less fragile to the idea of mania, but amongst a huge amount of people. Back in the 1400s to 1700s, there was another mania called the dancing mania, where people danced themselves to death. Now people aren't sure why this happened. It could have been a psychoactive drug that may have gotten around. Could have been a disease like a virus. We don't know. But one of the theories is that it was actually constituted by cults that wanted people to dance to death, basically, because it would help relieve their minds from the stress of poverty and stuff like that. So it's like an entire, like, conspiracy thing, you know, about a government. But I think that right now we're dealing with something very similar. And we're then dealing with a mania of clout. Now we've all seen the crazy things people do for clout. But I don't even think many people really understand the definition of the word clout. I know I don't. I just heard it a few times because it keeps being used. I don't know what the actual definition means. But from what I've gathered, it's just literally getting followers, getting likes, getting attention, subscribers, things like that. And this takes a really dark turn when people on social media, especially influencers, lose their mind. And I think that this is kind of a product of that. The product of the mania is a severe increase in mental illnesses. When you look on YouTube, and if you try to type anything in search bar when you don't have anything typed in before, the first things you see are lo-fi, anime things, all pretty normal, but then you see anxiety and panic attack meditation music. That's trending. Now, it's been no new thing in psychology that mental illness tends to be especially prevalent amongst the first world. And I think I've started to understand why. Because in the first world, your reputation is the thing that precedes you. You know, you have to apply to your own reputation. You have to keep it up. And I think that it kind of economized reputation, that prestige. It's been economized. And look no further than a few cases that I've seen recently. There's this one trainer who went completely insane. And there's this other YouTuber named Gabbie Hanna, which you've probably heard of. If not, she's been in the news a couple of times. And she's been showing severe signs of bipolar disorder and things like that. And we're gonna go over go over these two people right now. Just these two, just to make a point. And we're gonna start with the gym bro guy and what happened to him. We're gonna go react to some of that, and afterwards we will discuss some more. So we'll be watching a short little clip of the start of this video by SunnyV2. I recommend if you want to see the entire video, you check out his channel. We're just going to only watch the beginning to kind of give you guys the idea of what it's about. And I really do recommend you watch the entire video. I'll try to put the link in the description. And yeah.
Every single conspiracy theory you ever know is 100% true. The government is reptilian overlords. Joe Rogan is in on it. Elon Musk is in on it. Tiger Woods is in on it. You can check my story. I've been messaging them. I am forgetting and knowing that is how I created the plan. I can't do the plan if I knew it the whole time because I'd be cracking up, so I make myself forget. I am infinitely intelligent, so I can make myself forget.
Conor Murphy once had a reputation as an extroverted, disciplined go-getter whose athleticism easily rivaled other top-tier fitness influencers. However, as the years rolled by and Conor's channel faded into irrelevance, his mental state would sadly decline alongside it.
I used to be so happy when I was a kid.
This is called Tom's Market. I love this place because the Gospel of Thomas is where it's at. See, the people who wrote the Bible or...
I was actually put into a psych ward for over 2 weeks.
When in the psych ward, he said he was God. He was offered antipsychotic medication.
Every emotion in me is just rapid fire.
The whole universe is me. I am consciousness.
I know that Mom has a stronger belief in heaven than you, Dad. It's an essence. You can feel it. You can feel God within someone.
Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is a man who has officially lost his mind.
Break.
Okay, I'm gonna stop it right there. So yeah, basically, long story short, this is a fitness YouTuber, and according to some people, he lost his mind. Now, some of the things he said weren't too out there, really. Things like, you know, feeling a god inside you. You know, that's something that a lot of religious people say all the time. And unless you are under the notion that every religious person ever is clinically insane, which you might think, I don't know. I personally don't think that necessarily. But if you do think that, you know, that's a whole nother topic, really. But the point is that there were points later on in this video that I'm not going to show you because I want you guys to watch the entire video yourself if you're really interested. But I'm just going to give you a quick brief breakdown. A briefing, as it were. So this guy, his mental state declined, he was put into a psych ward, but eventually even his friends got into his apartment, and they started filming secretly. And it was a mess. It was terrible. And also out of respect, I don't really want to show that video, really. But imagine your friends, when you're in a bad state of mind, and then imagine your friends coming in just to film it and then post it online. Like, that's not normal. That's not what it should be. They were chasing Clout the way he was chasing Clout, differently as well. But this is what I'm trying to say. This perpetuates just this victim thing. And very popularly, what's very well known is that the same thing kind of happened with the media to Britney Spears. Britney Spears was completely just abused by paparazzi and the media. And there were even stories about, I think, her not wanting to do any nudity, and then people pressing charges against her and stuff like that, and just a whole bunch of weird things that they wouldn't be allowed nowadays. You know, people have become more sensitive, and there's bad sides to that, like people not being able to take humor anymore. But there's also good sides to it, which is that people are less accepting of things like that, because that is terrible. Just because someone is a popular person, or famous person, or infamous person even, doesn't mean that they should be destroyed instantly. I mean, there's always going to be people that are going to not like them. You know, there's controversial figures like Ben Shapiro, Brett Cooper. You have Jordan Peterson, you know, the more conservative-leaning ones especially. But, you know, I don't think anyone deserves death just because they're controversial. You know, I don't think anyone deserves something horrible like that. But there have been cases where streamers have actually been stalked even. Like Amaranth, right? Amaranth, which is, of course, Amaranth is, of course, someone that I don't really like, because she's a bit of a whore. But at the same time, does that give someone the right to chase them? Like, do two wrongs make one right? No. No. If one thing is wrong and another wrong thing is done that has nothing to do with that, that doesn't fix anything. A lot of the people that watched his life turn for the worse noticed that he started to do certain mushrooms and drugs, basically. And drug-induced psychosis and drug-induced schizophrenia and drug-induced, all these bipolar disorder even, is very common. Drugs can really trigger something in your mind if something is underlying. So it's a psychological fact. It's a psychiatric fact. Sorry, not psychological fact. I mean, technically also psychological. It's kind of connected. But the point is, it's really disturbing because we're seeing this trend where people who are influencers turn to escapism really quickly because they can't escape the fact that they have to be present all the time anymore. You know, there's this constant need for appreciation. It's constant, like, you want the clout, you want more and more and more. You indulge yourself, you gorge yourself in the flesh of the popularity. And then once that runs out, or when you don't get that anymore, they're looking for a replacement for that addiction, for that dopamine that has been proven that social media gives people. And this is the problem. That's where the mania comes in. Because then they start going to things like drugs and sex and stuff like that. Gabbie Hanna is a good example of that as well. Because I have reason to believe, judging by some of her pictures, that she's actually also going through the same thing. I think she also has a drug-induced bipolar disorder surgeons, I would call it. I think her bipolar disorder that she's always had, which is not that surprising if you look back at her history, I think that it, I think that it surged because of some drugs she took. And I'm thinking specifically that she's been doing meth. And I can tell by a few things, and I'm gonna go over that right now. Now, fair warning to you guys. The following pictures are posted by her, but they are scarcely clothed. So if you don't like scarcely clothed people, you can either skip or just leave the video. But I don't know why you would be watching my videos anyway if you can't stand things, because, well, I can go into pretty dark territories here. Alright, so here's a picture, one of the pictures from her OnlyFans. Well, there's a lot to see here, but let's focus on a specific area. This specific area right here, in particular. I recognize this because I've worked with patients before who had to deal with a drug addiction. And particularly the one that I'm thinking of here is methamphetamine, because it has very similar effects. Now this right here is a picture of a woman who has very famously been used in posters about methamphetamine. But look at their neck. Look at what's changed. That same thing that's going on with Gabbie, but is still in the process of happening, has already happened to this woman. And we can see the similarities. Now let's go to this picture. Now again, a lot to see, a lot of body, but I want to focus on her eyes this time. Because her eyes look very dazed. And you could say, okay, that could be just the mental illness playing up. But I don't think it is. Because if we look again at that picture of the other lady, she has that same look. The dazed look. Like her eyes are smaller. And it's really a sign of someone who's been physically using drugs. Not just a mental thing, but a physical thing. There's a significant difference between the two. Now, I don't think I've seen much of her teeth, but let's look at this picture right here. So this is a comparison of her from a few years ago and now. You can clearly see a big difference in the way she looks. I can already hear some people thinking, well, how do you know for certain though? I don't. I'm not giving her a diagnosis here, because I would need to do significantly more testing on her and talk to her more personally in order to do something like that. You can't just randomly give a diagnosis. That is not how it works. That would be wrong. But, however, I do think it is obvious that something is going on. And most likely it's a drug. At least she's not taking good care of herself, judging by the way her body's responding to things, and her dazed look in her eyes, and her mental state. So I feel like we've reached this point now where I think I've made my point about the Clout Mania. And, you know, I think that it's time for us to put a stop to it. I think this has gone on long enough, and even too long, really. And I think it's time that we say up until here and no further. So if you agree with me, Please share this video with everyone you know, and maybe we can stop this desperate need for attention that's leading to people literally losing their minds. Thank you. All hail to the rebel.